In this video, we're going to be talking about a very important skill that I think a lot of people aren't talking about that is really important for you to have as a human being on this planet. It can make the difference between success in life, making friends, making enemies, and sometimes it can actually save your life. I'm John from BulldogMindset.com. If you're just joining me for the first time, welcome to the place where we go from the victim mindset to the bulldog mindset and achieve what we want out of life. It's all about, taking life by the balls and accomplishing what you want out of life. So what am I talking about here, right? What is this skill that will benefit you so much in life that no one is really talking about? This skill is actually diplomacy, and it's a really important skill. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story, and then I'll tell you kind of how you can actually develop the skill of diplomacy towards the end of the video, so you're definitely not going to want to miss that. It's no secret that I've had my run-ins with the MGTOW community from time to time. I've done some videos, and there's been some and stuff, and for the most part it's kind of funny because I actually agree with a lot of what they have to say. And there's different spectrums of this whole thing. I've talked about it before. A lot of them have a deep-seated rage and hatred towards women and hatred towards people who do not adopt their philosophy in life, which I think is a sad thing and destructive, because there's a lot of good to be had from men learning to empower themselves. That's what I teach you guys on this channel. I was listening to this live stream from one of these MGTOW guys. And they were saying some kind of crazy stuff that I was just like, oh wow, this is just like such a delusion here. And what ended up happening was I said, you know what, hey, let me jump on this stream. I want to talk. I want to discuss some things with you guys. I think that we've got some commonalities, but there's some things that I'd like to talk about. And they actually did. They actually were gracious enough to let me jump on there. And I spoke with them. I spoke with them probably for about a good 3 hours. Okay, and we had a pretty good, productive discussion, right? And they were very much ready to tear my balls off, especially all the people in the chat and all, they're like, oh, this guy, and calling names and all this stuff. But I came in and I started off by talking about how that I think that there's a lot of good things that they're doing and that they're saying, and that we're not really that far in our philosophies and in what we believe in life, and that there's a lot of value, and and I'd like to discuss these things. I was very diplomatic in my approach, and it became a very productive thing. By the end of the session, I found out some things. I learned some things about them. I found some guys in there that I actually liked. Didn't hate them. They didn't hate me. They thanked me for coming on there, and I was able to turn around really that whole situation for the most part, right? The shift. I didn't win everyone in the chat room, where some people were still calling names, but a lot of them really said, okay, this is an intelligent guy. This is a guy that is a diplomatic guy that is, honestly listening to a viewpoint, has some wisdom, has some experience here in life, and can teach us. So I was actually able to influence a large portion of people. Now, I didn't necessarily move everyone exactly to my side, but I definitely shifted a large portion of the people that heard me and I talked to a large way. So it's really interesting. It's a really useful skill, and I definitely built a huge amount of rapport with those guys. And part of this was just because I just felt bad, going in there and just hearing the kind of rhetoric that they were talking about, that it was not beneficial to their lives, and I knew that I had some things that could help them, and I also wanted to see, can we make friends here? Can we take this really hostile environment, extremely hostile, I mean, it's a very hostile environment, and can we turn this around? Is it possible to do that? And I was able to do that, but it's because of the skill of diplomacy, and that's one thing that is extremely valuable. I'm going to do a quick, while I'm still holding this here, I want to give a quick shout out to Tactical Soap, by the way, sponsor of this channel. So a product that I use, I've been using this for a while now. It's basically a soap that has pheromones, natural pheromones in it. And, you might have a debate on whether or not pheromones work. I think they do, but it doesn't matter. It's like you're going to use soap anyway. And these are pretty cool. I like this Bond soap is like a black soap, and it's actually really high quality ingredients. And the guy that runs this company is really a good guy that is really in support of helping men and masculinity and those things. So you're supporting something that I believe in. There's a link in the description. It'll be like 10% off. So diplomacy is essentially, at least the way that I'm defining it here, is the ability to go into a situation and be empathetic towards the other person's viewpoint, to disarm situations that are hostile, and to have the power of influence over people. You could really define it as charisma, as getting people to like you, but especially in hostile situations, right? Especially in dealing with terse situations, with negotiation, things like that. It's a really valuable skill because it just may save your life. The best instance I could think of is if you're very diplomatic, and let's say that you got robbed at gunpoint, you would be able to handle that situation a lot better. Now, I'm not saying that diplomacy will solve every problem. It doesn't. Sometimes you need to go and throw some fisticuffs. Okay, that's sometimes that is the solution. Sometimes violence is the solution to things. I will tell you this right now. Okay, I'm not going to bullshit you. But many times, and most of the time, diplomacy is the solution. And so like I said, in an instance, let's say that you're robbed at gunpoint. If you're a very diplomatic person and you can empathize with that person committing the robbery, you can actually win them over to your viewpoint. You can prevent a lot of violence from occurring, and you can actually get them to kind of like you a little bit, which is key in any kind of situation like that. Perhaps you've seen movies where the kidnapper, like the person being kidnapped, has some diplomacy skills, and they sort of win the kidnapper over, or one of the kidnappers over. I've used diplomacy so many times in my life to be able to disarm hostile situations, to get your point across. Because a lot of times people get angry and they're fighting and they're arguing, and a lot of times our tendency as men, as human beings, is to go in there and fight, and go in there, and I'm not saying that there isn't a time and place for it, but many times when that's happening, no one's listening, and no one's hearing, and no points are being had. Nothing is moving in any direction. You're not getting perspective, and they're not getting perspective. And usually what you can find, and this works for negotiation as well, is that there's an overlap. Usually there's some kind of an overlap between the ideals, between the motives, the thoughts, the goals. And when you can find that common ground, you can unite people, and you can actually make friends out of enemies. I've used this tactic quite a bit in my life to do that, and sometimes you can make really good friends from that, because sometimes your best friends, people that will be the most loyal to you, will be the ones that start out as enemies, because it is a true change in nature, and it's also kind of a psychological principle. We kind of want to get validation from people who have taken it from us, or who didn't give it to us initially, whereas we devalue validation from people who give it freely. And not to say that you should be seeking external validation, but let's talk about how you can develop diplomacy. The best way, right, the kind of the foundation for developing the ability for diplomacy is going to be able to be level-headed. In order for you to be diplomatic, to have diplomacy skills, you have to learn how to be level-headed. So that's number one, right? If you can be level-headed, you can control the emotions of other people. When I joined that chat, that live stream, I was very gracious and welcoming to them, and just giving them the spirit of kindness that was coming across, that I genuinely cared about them. And I really do. Okay, even if they're calling me names, I still care about them. I still want them to have good life. Our perspectives differ, and they're lashing out in pain in many cases, but I'm projecting that. And when I do that, when I'm being magnanimous in that respect, it causes their emotions to also follow. There's like a mimicking that happens, right? We have in our brains these mirror neurons, and it's a very similar concept here. The key thing is to have that emotional mastery yourself, which you can find mostly through Stoic philosophy. The second thing that I think is really important, and this is a really important skill to develop, is to have the ability to communicate. Some of you would watch these videos and say, well, John is a horrible communicator. He just takes forever to get to his point. But that's probably because I like to hear myself talk, but I could talk for a long, long time, right? And the reason why is because I'm able to communicate my thoughts. I'm able to organize them. I'm able to say what I want to say. I'm able to say it in a way that is probably going to make some logical sense to you. If you can be a person that does that, you are going to, I want to say hypnotize, but it's not quite hypnotize, but you're going to create some some allure with your words and what you're saying, because when someone is speaking intelligently, even if you disagree with them, you're going to be drawn in by what they're saying. But when they're speaking emotionally and they're saying all kinds of rhetoric and stuff like that, then they haven't processed their thoughts, it's going to turn you off. You're going to be distracted. Part of the success that I've had on YouTube, on this channel, and just in general in life has been greatly due to my communication skills and my ability to get my point across, to be personable in the way that I communicate, to be empathetic. Those are kind of a merge of those things, but that's what diplomacy requires and entails. The third thing I would say is that you need to speak from an authoritative frame. This doesn't mean that you're shouting and yelling at people and saying that your way or the highway. It means that what you're saying you believe in, and you're communicating that you believe in it to be the truth. One useful way to make this, to amplify this, is to acknowledge other people and where they're at and their points before going into yours, right? If you can repeat what someone says, but then say, okay, this is true, what you said here, this is accurate, I am 100% in agreement with you on this, and here is this. And you're saying this from a very authoritative position, believing what you're saying, it is going to cause people to believe you and to take you as credible, and to feel like you're not duplicitous, right? And then the fourth one, the last tip I'll give you is to find the overlap. If you want to become diplomatic, you need to find the commonalities, right? When you talk to people, you need to say, oh yeah, we're the same. You need to say words like, we're the same. Oh yeah, I totally agree with you on this. I believe you on this. This is right? Or even sometimes to backpedal a little bit and to say, you know what, actually, oh shoot, that now that you put it that way, I think you're convincing me. This is right. And to be genuine with this, because if you're having a real discussion with a person and you're really being diplomatic, you are moving to some degree. Your goal a lot of times, if you're well spoken, if you are diplomatic, if you are persuasive, is to move them more in your direction than you move in theirs, but you have to move a little bit in their direction. If you're really being open-minded, like, we're not all perfect, we don't have all the answers, we don't know everything. Usually a person that is fighting against you, that has animosity towards you, they have a reason for it, right? And if you listen to their stories, that's probably another bonus tip here, you'll hear it, right? A lot of times when I'm working on being diplomatic, I will ask someone about their story, about their history. Oh, tell me about that. Tell me, you're showing that you care about them, and then you're finding that common ground. For example, in one of the MGTOW guys had talked about being bullied as a kid and being rejected by women and having this kind of chip on his shoulder. And I said, wow, that's me. I have had the same experience. I understand that. By doing that, you've created the common ground, and you're related. And now, it's like you're not from totally separate worlds. You're not against each other, right? You're on the same team. You just are figuring things out. And I think that's the key there. So take care and stay diplomatic.